Now you can predict and prevent hallucinations when you use language models or agentic solutions, thanks to the solution of this new research paper called Predictable Compression Failures, which they invented a new formula for calculating hallucinations and preventing them. And good news is that they released the source code of their solution, so in this video I'm going to show you how you can use it to utilize it in your own projects to avoid hallucinations. So let's check it out. This recent study is actually providing some more different point of view and insights about, first of all, why language models actually hallucinate, and then on the top, how we can calculate the risk of hallucinations and avoiding that. And again, as I said, they have already open source a solution, so you don't need to implement this paper, it's already there, but just want to show you first the fundamental understanding of how this solution works and then how we can use it in action. So stay tuned by the end of this video. So they're starting with highlighting that language models, which they're supposed to actually provide some consistent Bayesian inference, they're not actually doing so. So they are fundamentally providing a paradox. So what is that paradox in Bayesian approach? Well, in general, an ideal Bayesian reasoner shouldn't care what order you give to the same set of facts. So in general, language models are not supposed to be sensitive on the order of the context that you provide. Let's say when you do RAG and you retrieve some information to give to your prompt as a context. Sentence A, sentence B, sentence C. And if you flip the order of these sentences position, it turns out these language models are sensitive, which are not supposed to, because Bayesian cares about the priors but not necessarily the sequence. So why that's happening? So let me give you an example. If let's say you want to ask, for example, if the Eiffel Tower is located in France or not, and then you have some context that you're providing to the prompt. The first context is that the capital of France is Paris and the Eiffel Tower is in Paris. So the confidence of the model, the confidence of the probability of the token generated to say yes is 99% here. But then on the right side, if I just flip the order of these contexts that I'm giving as a prompt and then ask the same question, although this time it's very simple, it's gonna say yes again, but the confidence got slightly changed. So that means the order is important for individual samples when we try these language models, which can be a reason of hallucinations. But before we talk about solutions, let's start with just reasoning. So that can be the first. When we talk about this sort of Bayesian paradox, although on average, when we ask the same questions in different orders with different samples, on average, yes, it tends to be that language models are close to the truth and that confidence is not fluctuated that much. But individually, as we just checked as an example, that there's a fluctuation on the confidence of the model when it responds when you just flip the orders. So you might say that, well, how about if we give more context, more info in the prompt, when let's say we do RAG, let's call it evidence. Does it change the sensitivity of the model to care about the order of the info or not really? Well, in the study, they mentioned that although as we increase the number of chunks or context, for example, that we provide, that sort of fluctuations of probability of the confidence is getting sort of niched and limited, but still the challenge is there. So providing more context doesn't necessarily eradicate completely the challenge of sensitivity to the order, which language models are not supposed to be caring about that, but due to the nature of transformers, that's a fact and it's still there. Now, the other challenge besides just order we discussed that can cause hallucination is that these language models, if you think about it, it's like, from concept point of view, they're like compressing the knowledge of whole web and the world as they get trained using their training data. So when you ask a question, for example, who got the first Nobel Prize, for example, it knows the answer from the training data that they have got and the probability of predicting the next token that is coming from that training data set. Now, if the question that you ask from these language models are something well known, for example, what's the capital of France? Obviously, this has been repeated millions of times or maybe even more on internet, so the training data has that context a lot, so these language models are pretty confident to say you the answer. But if you ask a question, like for example, what is the name of the co-founder of, let's say, a recent startup or something that has not been seen that well, let's call it rare event in training data, then the language model is challenged to decompress the answer using just the training data. So hallucination is a compression failure, and that could be another reason of why with some rare cases the language models is confidently giving you the answer, but it's wrong because it was a rare event. Then how do we measure this uncertainty when we ask these type of questions, and how we can challenge the language model to make sure if we can detect hallucination or not? So the paper actually, also the toolkit that they release in the code, it's approaching this challenge with two methods. First is evidence-based. This is for the one that you have context, like RAG in your prompt. Second is closed book. That means when there's no RAG, you just ask a question from the language model or your agent and you're expecting an answer. So what they do actually let's start with element-based approach. They get the full context or the full prompt here. For example, you have chunks of data retrieved, let's say fact A, fact B, or these are sort of different chunks of data that you retrieve for the RAG, and then you ask a question. So what they do, they create some weaker prompts, or they call it skeleton here. What does that mean? They actually erase those chunks that you retrieve to see what's the confidence of the answer. Or they actually reorder the position of those chunks and ask the same question to calculate the same thing. And then I'm going to talk about that. How do we when we talk about calculation, what's the formula, how they use it. So stay with me. This is just a high level understanding of what's the method. The second way, when we have actually no chunks, just a closed book, what they do. So they take the prompt, which is the original prompt that you're asking, who won the 2019 Nobel Prize? And they create the same skeletons, but this time because there's no chunk. So what they do, they actually do some masking key components in the question or in the prompt in general. For example, here I'm masking the date. Here I'm masking the type of the prize, which is the Nobel Prize here. Then we calculate the same thing. So what? Let's get into that. So far, we just have one thing to approach those formulas. We have created the skeletons or those weaker prompts by just masking or changing the orders of the facts. But this is just one component we need to start doing our calculations. So what else we need? The first part that goes beyond just the prompt is that how much more info do we need? Then how do we calculate that? They call it bits to trust, B2D. Well, bits is the unit of information that you're specifying that in the paper, but to keep it simple, it's about how much more units of information I need to trust the answer that language model gonna generate. And we can calculate that. So what's the formula? We're gonna actually see that with Q, which is the worst case prior, that is how likely is the answer given only a skeleton prompt. That means what is the chance that we get the right answer up to the point without hallucination using some of those skeletons that they are masked or they are flipped. So in very ideal scenario, it should give us the answer. That means it's not a rare event. Model knows exactly the capital of France is Paris. Even if I flip the order or mask something, it still give me the answer. So that's one input. And the second is desired confidence, which is what is your level of confidence that you want from the answer. Let's say here I want to make sure that 95% I want to have accuracy on the confidence of the answer. So with just dividing these two, we will calculate information needed. For example, obviously, if I just say that, well, the chance of having the answer directly from one of those skeletons or masked prompts is very low, and at the same time, I want to really have a very confident answer, look at that. The information that you need to trust is 4.5, which is a number needed that shows above 0 that, hey, you need more information, more context. I cannot do anything with just what I have as of now. But if I actually decrease the desired confidence, I'm okay with any answer with 60%, for example, confident. You can see that the information that I need is getting actually reduced. So B to D, bits to trust, is another input that I need for going to the final formula. So keep them right now. When we have the final end-to-end example, you will see how these are actually used in a real use case and example. Now, the second thing that we already calculated how much more information we need, and also now we're going to calculate how much information do we have as of now. This is another thing we want before going to the final formula. So they call it information budget. Again, that talks about how much info we have as of now. So how do we calculate that? We calculate with calculating the log of the probability of having the right answer. For example, the capital of France is Paris. The true answer is yes. So what's the probability of that? We can calculate the probability of the token that any language model actually provide, the probability of the token chosen, which is pretty simple. When we have the full prompt, there's no skeleton, no masking stuff. We're just having full prompt, full context as is. What's the probability of having the answer? Let's say 99%. minus the log of having the right true answer, which is again, yes, the capital of France is Paris, but using those skeleton prompts, which is mask or flipped or reordered. And of course, we might have multiple skeletons, and we're going to talk about how that number of skeletons calculated. But let's say have 3 different reordered facts. So 3 times we calculated that, and we calculate the average of all of them to have this information budget calculated. If this information budget is high, what does that mean? That means your full prompt is already giving a lot of context and great context, while on the other hand, when we flip or mask or whatever we do with the skeletons, they're not really helping. So that means you already have great amount of info when you have just full prompt. So the chance of hallucination potentially gonna be less. All right, now here's the final formula. So for calculating whether we are going towards hallucination or not, we need to talk about what is ISR, which is information sufficiency ratio. So in paper, they're saying that if ICR is above 1, that means potentially there's no hallucination. Under 1, that means there's gonna be hallucination. That threshold can be changed by you, but this is sort of a rule of thumb. Now, how that ISR is getting calculated? We just need to simply divide information we have as of now, which we know how we calculate that, divided by information that we need, or B to D that I just discussed about. So it's very simple. If the information that I have is pretty high and information that I need is pretty low because I have everything, look at that. The ICR is very above than 1, so 100% the answer is correct, ideal, no hallucination. But if I just flip the scenario, look at this. It goes pretty low. Here, for example, I have my threshold everything above 0, but again, something, for example, below 1 or -1 gonna be your threshold to decide on blocking or preventing an answer, because you're getting to have hallucinations. Now, for making it fully understandable and see those formulas in action, let me walk through of an end-to-end real example to use these formulas. All right, here's an end-to-end example. Let's say you have a question from your agent that says, hey, was Llama 3.1 developed by Google? Obviously, the answer is no, because it's developed by Meta, but we're going to see. This is with a very simple, naive example, which we're going to see how we can calculate hallucination before we get the final answer and avoid that, right? So what we're going to do, we start creating out those skeletons. That means we're going to mask and drop some context within the question. For example, Llama developed by Google. We released everything before. Or mask developed by Google. What exactly? Or Llama 3.1 developed by masked. So you can see that here we are calculating the confidence of the model in giving the wrong answer, because the wrong answer is yes, it's developed by Google, but it's not. So probability of that yes, again, the probability of the token that you can get it from the API of the language model is calculated as a percentage here. Then with having these multiple skeletons, here's just 3 as an example, we're gonna start with the worst one, the one that models has the lowest confidence in the wrong answer, which is this one. So we consider Q low as 0.15 or 15%. Then with having that, now we can calculate B to D as we discussed. So B to D of 95, that's the percentage of getting the right answer when we get full context or the full sentence query to the language model, compared to the worst probability of the confidence of the model to give you the wrong answer. We just put it inside the logarithmic function that I just told you already to calculate it, which is 1.61 here as an example. And then on the right side, we can now calculate what was the amount of information that we have as of now, which is using the probability of those average of all the skeletons on the top inside that logarithmic function that I again discussed that already. Now, as you remember, for calculating ISR, I just need to divide these two. So with dividing these two here, now my number is below 1. So there's a chance this could get hallucinated. So I'm gonna block or call abstain. I'm not going to get the final answer. Now for the same example, if I'm gonna fix that, that means I got the ISR below 1. That's a good signal for me that if you want to get an answer for from the language model, you should provide more context. Otherwise, it's gonna make hallucinations. So what I'm gonna do, if I add some relevant context that, hey, Llama was officially announced and released by Meta, that's a very informative context, and it helps model a lot to say answer yes or no to that original question. So if we calculate those ISR again using the same approach, you will see that it suddenly jumped from below 1 to 1.55. But if we do the same thing with adding some so totally irrelevant context like this one, if James has 5 apples, this is not even relevant to the question of Meta and Llama. then it's gonna be even worse, or ISR is still gonna be low. So we're gonna block having any answer unless you generate relevant context and give it to the prompt. And finally, here's the GitHub repo they release. I will add the link of this GitHub repo to the Discord channel, which is under video description below. Go to the channel. There's a reference section in the channel, and when you go there, you will see the link of the reference code of this paper and also reference of all the videos that I have published so far. So if you go to the repo, they have provided some educational context. I already walked through about them. If you scroll all the way down, their example actually use OpenAI model as an example, but the solution is totally language model agnostic. So here's a couple of examples. For example, this one is closed book one, the one that there's no RAG, no context in the prompt, and you want to calculate hallucination. So you simply need to import the hallucination toolkit scripts, and then there are a couple of things you need to provide as an input. First of all, the prompt that you want to ask, which you're expecting hallucination or not, for the answer of this. Number of samples, here 7, that means how many times each skeleton or all these variants of the prompts will go to the AI model. More the better, because it does the average, so it's gonna generate more stability. Now, M is the number of skeletons. Remember those different masked versions or reordered versions I was showing you 2 times, 3 times? That 2 or 3 was the number of skeletons. The more give you more confidence, but still you want to also be cautious about the cost. And the skeleton policy here is closed loop because there's no RAG, no context, just a prompt here. And then I can just run the planner, but a couple of things you need to provide, which is H star is what is the max hallucination percentage you want to tolerate. Here, I do want to go with probability of more than 5% hallucination because that's too risky for me. Now, what is the ISR threshold? Any number above this going to be accepted, below this going to be rejected because of hallucination, and 1, as I told you, is chosen here. Now, what is margin extra bits? That's just a safety add on the top of the units of information gain that you calculate. This is also something that you can keep it as is. And big clip is actually clipping bound. That means you limit the maximum contribution of information gain using these skeletons. You can also use the best practices provided here. Clip mode, one-sided. That's mean when you calculate that logarithmic function, maybe the answer might be negative. If there's negative, you flip it to 0. So everything gonna be on the positive side. That's what the clipping does here. And then when you run this, it will give you that final ISR and the decision. Rather, we need to say that yes, this is an answer, no hallucination, or get refused. They also have a similar example for when you have evidence, like RAG, for example. Everything is the same, inputs are the same. The only difference is that, first of all, in your prompt, not only you have the task or question, but also you have the evidence, which are your chunks. And then on the top, you also have your skeleton policy flipped to auto instead of closed book. And you have filter raise, which is evidence. That's going to be the label to tell where is the chunks and from where they're going to get started. And sort of the same inputs that I have, which are the parameters for this calculation. And finally, you will have the decision of whether we have hallucinations or not. All right, although there are numerous map approach methods that you can calculate hallucinations, some people use other language models to calculate hallucinations, some generate their own scores, or some they use the probability of the tokens predicted by the language model. Although there are valid solutions, but I found that each of them, they comes with own sort of shortcomings. But this one that I just came across, I realized that it's actually more promising and the logic behind makes much more sense. So although it's not widely spreaded yet because the paper just got published a couple of days ago as I'm recording this video, but I found that it's pretty handy to implement as the code is there. But making sure that you understand what's going on is a value, and you can take it to even personalize or customize it for your own projects. I hope you found this video helpful. If yes, I would be very thankful if you can like icon below, and make sure you share your thoughts, questions in comment section below, and subscribe so you won't miss the next video. Thank you so much.